Historically inspired by the traditional Chinese sword, Jian, the Light Greatswords are making an explosive entrance into the Elden Ring weapon roster, akin to a never-ending dance, which movements blend into one another. These weapons' attack are as magnificent as they are terrifying. But are they any good? We have a total of 3 Light Greatswords in Elden Ring, with each and every one of them being unique. So, which one is the best? Let's find out.
I can wield my sword to call the undeserving. It's time to begin ferreting out.
What a sight! A warrior true, if ever one there was!
Challenging a god is no small matter. Righteous tarnished, we will have our victory. I swear upon my blood.
Do you not remember? Conquer your past! How once you were, when fear was yet foreign to you!
But before we get started, there are a few things that you guys should know. Since patch 1.13, Light Greatsword are among the best weapon class in the game, since while two-handed will break your opponent's poise much more often. For example, with your two-handed first R1, crouch R1, running R1, both hit of your running R2 and jumping R2. In terms of weapon class, the Light Greatsword could be compared to a straight sword or a curved sword, but the question is, what do they have over them? Their actual strength is that they are longer than other light weapons, and even though they have a short recovery, they have a long startup animation on most of their attack, meaning in theory, it is easier to see the first attack coming. In a way, this is from software of balancing the weapon out. However, once the attack chain is being initiated, every attack blends extremely well into one another. That way, you will always seem to be attacking and are always keeping your opponent guessing from when the next attack is going to come out. It is then crucial to know really well the weapon moveset, because depending on where in the combo chain you are, you can swing your weapon 2 times within one press of a button, hence putting yourself at the risk of being easily whiff punished. In terms of moveset, Light Greatsword offer great options, whether one-handed, two-handed, power stance. They also can work really well in tandem with the shield, sword and board style. Make sure to watch Wazia's video to see an amazing player playing like that. So it really is up to you to decide how you want to play them. They are going to be fantastic either way. One of the best attack of the Light Greatsword is most certainly the jumping R2 one-handed or two-handed that will break your opponent's poise if either hits land. This attack comes out very fast and you can blend it with the rust bucket jumping technique. And finally, after the second swing, you can press R1 for a lightning fast backswing that most opponents will fail to dodge. In terms of build crafting, the Light Greatsword can benefit from a lot of talisman. The Cloak Talisman for 10% more damage on jumping attacks, since it has fantastic jumping attacks. The Two-Handed Sword Talisman for 10% more damage because the two-handed moveset is great. The Militian Prosthetic and Winged Sword Insignia for extra damage with successive hits. With these 2 talismans, you can delete people from the surface of the earth. But since Milady can be infused with any Ash of War, you can basically make it work on any type of build. Arcane, Fate, Intelligence, whatever floats your boat. Since 2 of the Light Greatsword are putting you in a stance, you can also use Rellana's cameo for extra damage. With that being said, let's go over the tier list, shall we, with a weapon teased before the Elden Ring DLC even dropped, the weapon of a complete maniac, Leda's sword.
I can wield my sword to call the undeserving. It's time to begin ferreting out those of us who don't deserve to be at kindly Nikola's side.
Leda's sword was wielded by the twisted, blood-starved religious fanatic Leda. That woman is a complete lunatic. I mean, she's crazy, man. She might be hot, but is that worth it? In my opinion, it's not worth it. Though polished to a mirror sheen, this blade still reeks with the stench of crusted blood that lingers from the coal of her knightly comrade. Leda had no problem killing anyone that didn't align with the plot of her master, Nikola the Kind. She really was a fascist pig. Leda's sword requires 11 strength, 22 dexterity and 19 fate in order to be wielded, and scales mostly out of your dexterity investment. Leda's sword is the shortest out of all the Light Greatsword and has a unique Ash of War called Needle Piercer, which is a top tier Ash of War because even though it deals little damage, it has a unique effect of dispelling almost all special effect of those spears by it. It will dispel. Status effect, weapon buff except Royal Knight Resolve, auras buff, body buff, stamina regen buff, health regen buff, shield buff except barricade shield, certain unique buff, all crystal tier except rupture crystal tier, fall damage, silencing, invisibility, rune accusation, item discovery, endure, oath of vengeance, FP recovery, terra magica for 1.5 seconds, and all debuff except oil plot and bewitching branches. And this can work in PvP even if you don't land a direct hit on them and only land a ghost hit on your opponent, meaning even if they dodge it, their buff can be taken off, which can be very strong in invasion, especially since this is where people have time to buff themselves. A small benefit also is that you can actually damage people with swing portion of the sword during the Ash of War animation. It will probably happen once every full moon on a leap year, but yeah, just letting you know that it can happen. The sword actually does damage. You could also use it to deal damage to hurt your opponent from afar, but to be honest, there are actually way many better options to do so. The other downside is that the Ash of War animation lasts a bit too long and so leaves you very vulnerable to be punished like the mean little boy that you are. You like to be punished, huh? The pros the pros of this weapon are great Ash of War, good damage. The cons of this weapon are worst range out of all the Light Greatsword. It lacks versatility since it cannot be infused. We are then putting it into the B tier, moving on to a weapon which is counting the love story of fire and ice, or ice and fire, whichever one you like better.
O Shadow, thou art the last. Tell the two fingers that Rani the witch cometh to rend thy flesh.
Rellana's Twinblade was the weapon wielded by the knightess Rellana, which was actually a Carian princess, sister to Rennala, the full moon queen. I know, they almost have the same name, it's not confusing at all. Thank you, Miyazaki. However, she decided to forsake her birth duty as royalty and choose to follow her heart into the abyss of Mesmer's dark path. Rellana's Twinblade is the longest Light Greatsword and is a paired weapon, meaning that once you two-hand them, you will have the power stance Light Greatsword movesets once you press R1. But since the second weapon in your hand is actually not a Light Greatsword but is a straight sword, you will actually have the straight sword one-handed moveset when you press L1, hence making this weapon very unique and very versatile since you can mix up your attack a lot. This way you can constantly break the rhythm of your flow of attack and keeping your opponent under pressure since he will always have to adjust to the different attack speed. The real downside of this is that you cannot have the fabulous two-handed moveset of Light Greatsword. This weapon cannot be infused and so has a unique Ash of War called Mood and Fire Stand, which shoots projectiles of magic if you press the light attack button. These projectiles will come out in a succession of 2 for the first and second swing. This projectile will travel quite slow over a large distance. They can be used for roll catching or chipping at unaware opponent from afar. The downside is that they do low poise damage, and on the other hand, the heavy attack version of the Ash of War will create a terrifying vortex of Mesmer's flame. This vortex takes the whole area around you. I mean, the area it covers is just absurd. The poise damage on it is so high that it will stagger most opponents. It can so be used as an almost unavoidable roll catch after a backstab. The main weakness of this Ash of War is that you will be struck in the animation for a long time, hence you will get easily punished by a projectile like a frozen pot, for example. This weapon scaling is a bit confusing. For better information, watch Kreit's video on the matter, but TLDR, if you want big damage on the Ash of War, invest into faith in intelligence, and if you care about hitting your opponent with the weapon itself, invest into dexterity and strength. I would recommend going with the latter because even though the Ash of War is great against a talented player, it will be quite hard to land since many of the attacks are quite telegraphed. Hence, view the Ash of War as an extra tool to use situationally and not the main way to deal damage. Just my personal opinion, of course. To conclude, the pros are good Ash of War, great range, solid damage, great mix up with the offhand straight sword, and the cons are no two-handed moveset sadly and not infusible. We are then going to rank it into the A tier. But are you guys ready? We are now moving on to the sexiest of all Light Greatsword. Behold its splendor and welcome the Milady. I'm not sure how you say that, but here it comes.
Pathetic little man. Didn't I say? No harm can befall a shadow.
This is where it ends for you. The way ahead is pleasingly simple. We fight, sword and fire.
To be honest guys, not much lore is associated with the Milady. We can find it in the only Carian castle in the Lands of Shadow. Historically speaking, Milady is the name given by the French people to the noble English woman. Yes, French people love sexy and very rich English women. But since Rellana is a Carian princess, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine that this weapon belonged to Rellana before she threw it away and instead used Mesmer imbued straight sword. The Milady guys, it's so amazing. Not only does it look good, simple, efficient, beautiful, but it is also the longest straight sword in the game, deals tons of damage, can be enhanced by greases or spell, can be used in any form, one-handed, two-handed power stance, on a sword and board. It is the only infusible light greatsword, meaning you can use fantastic Ashes of War like sword dance that will give it hyper armor and a 2-hit combo. I mean, I still don't understand why sword dance on light weapon hasn't been nerfed, like what's going on with From Software, but you also have awesome Ashes of War you could use. Spinning Slash, Stormblade, Poison Mist, Frozen Mist, Storm Stomp. Don't use it, please don't use it. Don't use Storm Stomp. Piercing Fang, Beast Roar, Quick Step and Bloodhound Step. Please don't use them. I beg you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I know you want to do it, but please stop. You need to stop. Flaming Strike and many others. But it also has a unique Ash of War called Wing Stance, which consists of 2 movesets, the R1 attack, which is a succession of 3 attacks, which are quite telegraphed and pretty easy to dodge in my opinion. Not its best feature, however on the other end, the R2 version of the Ash of War is one of the most anime and cool attack in the game. The R2 consists of 1 jump in the air followed by a huge lunge forward. You can reach your opponent through absurd distances with this one, and sometimes you can even jump over people's attack. Pretty cool if you ask me. Or maybe you don't really want to ask me, which is okay. I'm a bit upset, but I'll get over it. But I think you get the point. Milady is fantastic. Pros, great range, great damage, variety of build crafting. Cons, well, none. Like really, it's just a very good weapon. It goes straight into the S tier, of course. And this is our final ranking, guys. So to summarize, Leda's sword is B for good damage, situational, Ash of War, lacks of versatility, and has the smallest range. Rellana is A for great mix-up, great range, good damage, an Ash of War that can trap people but cannot be used two-handed or infused. And finally, the Milady is S for everything I just mentioned like 1 minute ago. Come on guys, I'm not going to repeat myself so soon. If you skip to the conclusion part of the video, please do me a favor and watch the damn video, or at least leave a like and comment. But what is your guys' ranking? Let us know in the comment section below. I read and answer to every comment. It was Valentin. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and comment. I love you guys and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.